Welcome to this edition 119 of Star Nation News from Edam, Holland. Netherlands are really nice country. They show that you can build beautiful cities, towns, gardens on something that at first you thought wasn't possible. And the beauty is all around you here, everywhere you go. And it is in this very inspiring environment that I am inviting you to follow me for this edition 119 of Star Nation News. I'm going to talk to you about the following up of these interviews with Jezya, the Kiily-Tokurt ambassador, and this week we will meet in even more beautiful gardens on board the greenhouse of the station, orbital station, where Thor Han works. And we are going to talk about ethics, going really in depth into the ethics. What in the Kiily-Tokurt civilization, culture, and also makes you think in other cultures, what does ethic means? What is the reference grid for ethics in different cultures? You know, different species, different mindset. We're going to talk about the Akara, about also the notion of compassion. What is really compassion in the eye of other cultures who see it differently? This is going to be a very interesting topic today, and I am inviting you to fasten your seatbelts and engage. Well, welcome everybody to this third interview with Kiily-Tokurt Trade Ambassador Jezya. This conversation occurred with Thor Han Eredyon, who would not leave me alone with her, on board the orbital station of the Federation, and it was that time in the biodome area. They have a little greenhouse where they grow food and plants from their homeworlds, to feel a bit connected to home, because it's a long mission, you know. Well, I met with Thor Han Jezya there, and she was quite astounded how humans and other species on board this station, of course, could reproduce their environment on such a ship, you know, deep space orbital station, now near Earth, but so far from their home worlds. There was a sense of belonging that was present there. So you may have been wondering how I could remember all these conversations, question answers. It's because I was allowed to take notes. In the first conversation face-to-face, of course I wasn't writing anything. Thor Han recorded everything via my implant that I could replay later on and type everything. That's why I have all the notes of my conversations with Jezya. And in further communication, when it wasn't physical anymore, but just by transmission, I could type in real time the question and answers. So that's why it is so detailed and accurate. I am now going to go into my notes and tell you the story of my third encounter with Jezya on board the station in the biodome. So she said to me, "You asked yesterday questions that deserved more than diplomatic answers." I said yes. So we sat around a circular table in the gardens, and under the canopy of nature. It was amazing. And I said to Jezya, yesterday our conversation turned around the same topic. And she said, ethics. I said, yeah. So she said, folding her hands, long, slender hands with white painted nails, she said,
You believe ethics are universals. And I believe some principles are, yeah. Such as? Well, that suffering should be minimized whenever possible. A very human formulation. You disagree, I asked. I disagree that it is universal. Thor Han was remaining silent, but he knew that was going to go. And I said, do you think ethics are relative? She said, I think ethics emerge from biology. Explain your viewpoint, I said. A species evolves under particular environmental pressures. Those pressures shape cognition. Cognition shapes culture. Culture eventually becomes morality. She showed a tree above us and she said, suppose this tree, she continued, possessed consciousness. We know it does, but its ethics would differ from yours because its existence differs from yours. I understand that. The dough, she continued, developed within hive consciousness. Individual autonomy has almost no meaning to them. They judge actions according to the health of the collective. You as humans evolved as cooperative individuals. You value both personal freedom and social cohesion. Consequently, your ethics constantly balance the two. And the Kiily-Tokurt, I asked. She replied, we evolved in an environment where survival depended upon preserving our lineage over geological timescales. We therefore value continuity above compassion. I say that sounds cold, she said. It does. It is, she said. She continued saying, our morality asks a different question than yours. What question? I said. She replied, does this strengthen our civilization? And if the answer is yes, then the action becomes acceptable, even if millions suffer. She stared directly at me and she said, you continue asking human questions. Well, I speak on behalf of humans. Precisely. There was a bit of silence. And she continued. Well, before she continued, Thor Han spoke. And Thor Han, very diplomatic, said, many conflicts between civilizations arise because each assumes morality exists independently of biology. I believe biology influences morality, but consciousness allows it to evolve. Jezya nodded, and she said, a reasonable position. So I said, Jezya, so why and where does empathy fit into your philosophy, Jezya? Where it does fit? And she says, we possess empathy. Okay, I said I struggle to reconcile that because of what we discussed these last 2 days. And she said, you equate empathy with identical moral conclusions. Well, I suppose I do. That is an error. I understand perfectly why you were disturbed by what I told you. Oh, you do? Yes, and yet I would still have made the same decisions expected of my office. Okay, I said, so empathy isn't enough. No, so what is? Wisdom. Thor Han smiled. He said, I was wondering how long it would take you to before one of you said that. I turned towards him and I said, is wisdom different from ethics? And he replied, it is the ability to recognize that the ethics themselves may occur to change. Jezya, thoughtful, said, "Our civilization rarely asks this question." "I know," Thor Han responded to her. "We ask whether our actions strengthen the Tokurt." "And never whether they should," Thor Han added. She did not answer immediately. For the first time since meeting her, I sensed genuine introspection. And after a moment of thinking, she was within herself. It was difficult because she's not expressive facially, so it was difficult to grasp what was going on within her, you know. And she said, "Perhaps not often enough." That surprised me. And before I could respond to that, suddenly another thought came to my mind, and I said, "Oh, but talking about ethics, what about the mantids, Akara? They seem difficult to classify." And she said, "The Akara are unlike either humans or Tokurt." But I said they are often described as genetic scientists. They are. So for whom do they work? She laughed. For a little bit she went like, "Ha ha ha, for anyone." "Anyone?" I said. "The Akara possess an extraordinary fascination with genetics and biological evolution," Thor Han explained. "Knowledge itself is their primary motivation." "They are not loyal to government," Jezya added. "They are loyal to research, so they'll work for benevolent civilization or malevolent ones." "The Tao," I said. "Yes," she replied. "And the Federation?" "Yes," Thor Han said. "And the Kiily-Tokurt?" I asked Jezya, and she inclined her head. "Yeah, several houses have contracted Akara specialists throughout our history." "They don't choose sides?" I asked. "No," she said, "they choose opportunities." Thor Han stepped in again and elaborated. He said, "The Akara generally evaluate a project according to its scientific value, rather than its political consequences." Jezya continued over this. She said, "They are among the most ethically detached civilizations we know. They rarely ask whether an experiment should be performed. Their primary concern is whether it can be performed, and they would tell you that knowledge itself possesses no morality." I looked to one and the other, and I said, "And what do you think, Jezya?" "I admire them." Mantids, I expected that. "However, I do not entirely agree with them," she said. "Oh, you surprise me again." "Our interests overlap," she said. "Our philosophies do not." And Thor Han added pensively, "Perhaps it's the lesson." "What lesson?" I asked him. He said to me, "Every civilization eventually discovers that intelligence and ethics are not the same thing." None of us spoke for a while about that. We had all this nature around us, the birdsong, the peace. We are surrounded by life, gathered from dozens of worlds, and I couldn't help reflecting on how extraordinary the universe was. It was filled with not only different species, but with different ways of deciding what it meant to do the right thing. This conversation in the biodome was something very triggering, where we came to the agreement, all three together, being from three different worlds, that the evolution in intelligence of a civilization is not always linked in balance with the development of good ethics, like do no harm. Look at the Sikar, look at the Dao, look at many other civilizations who choose their own ethics regarding to their cultural background. For these civilizations, doing harm is okay, because it's not in their set of cultural thinking. For the Sikar, for instance, doing harm to thousands of worlds was a good thing to grow their civilizations. And the Kiily-Tokurt was the same. Doing harm to people taken into slave trade was something good because it was growing their civilization, their economy. But they didn't take it as doing harm. The Sikar didn't see it either as doing harm. Actually, they didn't care. It wasn't even something bad because it wasn't even a thing. What are humans doing to cows on Earth? They know they cause harm, but they don't want to think about it. They dismiss it. Why? For the good of their own culture. Feed their people. You know it harms, but you still do it for the good of humanity. That's where duality comes into consciousness. Through denial. Denial and acceptance that we are dual. Humans of Earth sometimes harm, kill, to feed the collective, to protect a territory, to protect their interest, to not starve. They know they do harm, they know it hurts the animal, or the being, the human, no, this occasion, the child, but they still do it. And that's when we must really question why. They know it hurts. They know it causes harm and distress in the abused being, but they compartmentalize themselves. That's, I'm causing harm to this being, that's this part. And then in the other box, the other part is, I'm feeding my family, or I'm increasing my territory, or I'm doing good for the collective. Man, that's what duality is about. Now in the evolution of consciousness, it is about stop compartmentalizing and open the gate and get the two ones to live in balance. What does it mean? It means acknowledging the suffering, empathy, and taking responsibility for our actions, which is Kiily-Tokurt haven't done yet, although they are super advanced technologically, regarding to humans of Earth, they haven't got there. They still compartmentalize. When you open the pathways, you take responsibility for your actions, all of them. That's when you truly grow. I believe not as Jezya describes the growth of her culture, which is an economic growth. No, the spiritual growth, the evolution. I knew I wanted to meet a Kiily-Tokurt one day, to sit down and talk. Because understanding them is understanding humans of Earth. Who humans of Earth are. Humans of other cultures, such as Thor Han's culture, he is human, have reconciled the two already. Thor Han is more advanced as his culture than Jezya, although Jezya's culture is technologically more advanced than Thor Han's culture. Thor Han is above spiritually because they've reconciled the both. They do not harm animals, they do not do slave trade, they do not do harm. And that's what the Prime Directive is about also. The Kiily-Tokurt are fascinating, and I'm going to take you next to a dinner that was organized around Jezya, where families were there with children. This was an extraordinary session. I will tell you next time. And I invite you to explore in the meantime honesty. Open the gate. Go and see on the other side. Would you genuinely kill the animal whose flesh you are eating? Whose flesh you are, pieces of flesh you are buying in the supermarket? I know I'm blunt, I know. But we need to be honest if we want to evolve. We need to be honest. And the face-to-face with other star cultures are here to shock us and teach us, hey, are you ready? Here, but are you really ready? Let's go forward. But first, going forward is going inward and exploring that compartmentalized side that we don't want to know about, to see. No. I'm not going to lecture you about becoming vegan. That's not what I'm here for, but I'm letting you the choice. I'm giving you the free will of choice. It's disturbing. I know you feel uncomfortable, but that's what evolution is about, getting out of your comfort zone. So are you ready?
We are not separated. It is a concept that you experience when you are incarnated into a life that you get very easily entangled into. In truth, we are existing beyond the boundaries of flesh, of individuation, of incarnation. The boundaries, the physical flesh boundaries of these bodies are just to maintain the experience of individuality. To be true, we all intersect with each other. There's no even true boundary when you think about matter itself. The electrons intertwine when you touch a surface. There's no hard boundary. It's all electrical impulses, interaction, frequencies. And in this universal interaction, we do not realize it, but we are all entangled to each other, to the trees, to nature, to the air, to everything we touch. Caressing the hand of somebody else is entangling your electrons with their electrons. there's a bond that is created, an imprint that you will remember. And in this knowing, we realize that we are one in the greater understanding of the electromagnetic universe, creation. We are one, and not only that, in consciousness. There are three constants in time, in space, and in consciousness that we need to integrate as one. Three becomes one. We are not our actions. We are a beautiful fractal of Source Creator. And what we decide to do, our behavior, is who we decide to play, what we decide to do. This is the actions we choose to do. But it is not fundamentally who we are. The actions define how the others perceive you. But is it really you? We make mistakes. We do things we shouldn't have done, that we regret, and then we evolve. And we're not able to do the same things again because we've evolved. We've not evolved. Well, we've evolved, of course, but we've become closer to who we are. That's what evolution is. And this is so beautiful, because when we realize that we are not what we decide to play or to do, comes the question, who are we? Well, we are this creator spark. We are all made of the same substance, a same consciousness fractaled into an infinity of individualities, of hives, of collectives, of single individuals. So when we decide to incarnate into a specific culture and behave as the culture is teaching us, is it really who we are? Talking with Jezya, this cold Kiily-Tokurt individual raised in the Nazi-like culture, I discover someone able of thinking, someone scared, terrified of going out of norms, out of her boundaries, or the boundaries the collective she lives in has taught her. And you will see as our conversations goes that she sometimes expresses this fear of the unknown, the fear of grasping that somewhere out there there's the version of us that already knows that we are not maybe living up to the expectations of Creator, that we may be entangled in a culture who has taught us certain ethics that are in a certain way, that maybe corresponds to who we feel we are, or maybe not. And if not, we feel outcast from the collective within. And its loneliness is terrifying. I felt all that in Jezya as the interviews went on and on and on. The 7 days spent talking with her were very informative to me, and not only about the Kiily-Tokurt and who they are, but about the nature of being, the very notion of perspective. So many good beings are entangled into terrible dictatorship societies, and they don't deserve to be there. And some others are born in there and suddenly realize that there's something else. Watching Jezya slowly awakening to the possibility of other ways of interaction between beings that species considered as inferior were able of much more spiritual feelings than them. This is disturbing. Next time I will take you to this very special event that occurred on a orbital station, a dinner where I was invited, a diplomatic trap for Jezya. You will see, it was excellent. Higher intelligences. Oh my goodness. I'm going to leave you here. Think about the notion of being and the notion of deciding what game we are going to play for the collective, for the evolution. Are we going to play negantropy, entropy, and why? All of these questions needs to be thoroughly meditated. And I think the answer is in who we are, who we really are, and what we decide to do. ...2021 was an incredible year of liberation of the star system. The Dark Fleet was kicked off Antarctica and kicked off the Moon and of Mars. And at the end of the year, all of what remaining of the Dark Fleet was cast out of the star system. They were defeated, this branch. And the solar system was locked, that nobody regressive could then come and invade again. The Greys were expelled, the Sikaar were recently defeated, 2025. You know, a lot have changed and allowed for change. When the Moon was liberated in 2021 from the Greys, I would witness through the eyes of Thor Han fights in space with the spaceships of the Federation and also the Greys ships and Kiily-Tokurt ship, the black triangles, you know. There was such a war with the alliance of the Six that was owning the Moon and Mars and Phobos and Deimos. All of this is related in my book, We Will Never Let You Down. You have all the historical of the events. Since then, the solar system has been rebuilding, you know, the Jupiter agreements, the hub, and the Artemis Accords, the recolonization of the Moon. And thanks to the Earth Alliance, the Galactic Federation of Worlds, the Intergalactic Confederation as well, we can now safely say that the star system is safe. No more fight, no more wars. It's a period of peace, prosperity, and building. Earth is a place of birth for new projects, for new endeavors, and humanity is now going to soar towards the stars, multiply, become an amazing interstellar civilization. That's what is written at the entrance of our star system, this sign for these guys. It's interesting how when the alliance of the Six was defeated, how everything splitted for them. The Kiily-Tokurt decided to help the Galactic Federation of Worlds to find the hybrids that were hidden in that time bubble, you remember, behind the Orion Nebula. And they helped them to neutralize these hybrids cargoes by telling the Federation, hey, don't open them. There are antimatter bombs in them. you know. So the Kiily-Tokurt are finding a way of reintegrating the galactic scene, but they need for that to abandon their practices. This is what they need to do. Will they do it? I don't know. We'll see. All of this to say that there is no fight on the moon. There is no dark fleet in our star system. There is no Jedi admiral riding through Atlas and reptilian cargoes. There is none of this. This star system has reached peace. And I think humanity now should focus on what they can build together instead of diverting their focus and scattering to listen to distractions. It is now we unite together. It is time we come as one civilization to finally build what we always wanted to see. The future Earth for our children, because we are the architects. The two forces helping the universe go forward in evolution, entropy, which is destruction, and negentropy, which is creation, are playing games to create this tension. And this tension creates a balance into the dynamics of forces that are going to push through the negentropy to be better. It's going, this fight is going to push the intelligence further, the strength stronger, and it's going to make of those who seek for evolution, for solution, for happiness, to be more efficient, more clever, more cautious. That's what your enemies are for, to teach you who you are. Your enemies are here to tell you, hey, you can be better. Hey, you can do better. That's why they are here. That's what they are here for. And if you really pay attention to what all your enemies have taught you, mistakes that you will not make again, things you've done, you regret. Oh, now you're going to do them better. You're going to be more cautious, and you evolve. You become more detached with the insignificant, unuseful things, such as gossip, for instance, or little waste of times. You're going to focus more and more on what is essential for your growth, for your happiness, for the happiness of others, of the people you love. This is what it is about, the fight for balance, which is never attained. Because once perfect balance is attained, it's death, it's immobility, it doesn't move anymore, So that's what it is about. Your enemies are your teachers. And you are the teachers of your enemies, because as you become better, they try to get better at their game as well. And that's how we play the games of evolution. But inside of you, in the center of your being, you are the same, fractal. You need to remember that. You are them. They are you. And what drives you all, whatever action you do, is happiness. Being happy. For many people means being loved, for others being rich or whatever. But happiness is a very definable concept regarding your culture, your aspirations, who you are, what you think you need. And this is what drives evolution, humanity to go forward. The quest for happiness. People who help you seek happiness. People who defame you seek happiness. People who hurt you want to be happy too. This is paradoxal, but it is the truth. And the quest for happiness makes us do stupid things. Jealous individuals are going to kill others because they can't possess this person, or they can't have this or that, so they're gonna steal, kill, do all sort of ill things because they're experimenting. They don't know, and that's when ethics comes in the picture. They don't want to know it's wrong. They do it because they think this is going to make them more happy. Even if they paid for, more money will make them happy, you know? This is a perspective that you have to step back into, because it will show you the truth behind the curtain. That sometimes it is good to stop playing games. Sit beside each other and enjoy happiness.